The presidential campaign for Governor Ron DeSantis is not going well, at least according to one DeSantis insider who is throwing up the white flag. According to a report from the Washington Post, the hits to the DeSantis campaign just keep coming. And as far as some campaign staffers are concerned, it's over. O-V-A-H, over. With the Post reporting that DeSantis campaign officials are facing a gloomy future, the insider admitted, quote, people increasingly think it's over. It's a dumpster fire. Wow. Oh, awesome. Now, the report notes a couple of different factors for why they believe that way. For one, they lost the support of the remaining Koch brother. So, gone. No more Americans for Prosperity money. In fact, a recent report from Americans for Prosperity shows that there was little evidence that Trump voters would actually flip to DeSantis if Trump, for some reason, dropped out, which seems unlikely. But again, if they're not going to go to DeSantis, then why would the Koch brother, the Koch Industries, and their donor networks, why would they give to a loser? Makes sense, right? But that's not the only problem, right? So inside the DeSantis campaign, especially in some of the supporting PACs, there's a lot of backstabbing. There's a lot of finger pointing for his pretty bad, polling in some of the very key states like Iowa. There's the fact that the super PAC backing DeSantis literally called Never Back Down had their CEO literally back down. No, this is CEO Chris Jankowski quit last week while saying that his job had become untenable and alluded to problems, quote, well beyond a difference of strategic opinion. Disaster. Now, one diehard DeSantis supporter did keep up a slight bit of hopium when he said that a decent showing in Iowa could keep the campaign afloat, but barely. In fact, you're going to love this quote. It's my favorite quote here. DeSantis Insider says, the best thing he's got going for him is the expectations for him are so low. Damning with faint praise, right? we got low expectations for Ron, okay? For pudding fingers, okay? So if he somehow exceeds them, great. Devastating. Absolutely devastating. And what might be the final embarrassment, though, came last night after he debated California Governor Gavin Newsom, who might have just put the final nail in the DeSantis campaign's coffin.
What's wrong with Toni Morrison's books?
It's not banned.
What's wrong? It's not true.
Not.
What's wrong with Amanda Gorman's?
It's not banned.
And the poetry. 1,406. 1,406 books have been banned on your banning binge in the state. What you're doing is using education as a sword for your cultural purge. And you know what? With all due respect, I remember in the 1970s, we had a bill called the Briggs Initiative. And there was a guy by the name of Ronald Reagan, so offended by the Briggs Initiative, which was the original Don't Say Gay bill. In that case, it was not allowing teachers that happened to be gay to teach. And Reagan had the courage to stand up, and he said, you can't catch gay like you can measles. I don't like the way you demean people. I don't like the way you demean the LGBTQ community. I don't like the way you demean and humiliate people you disagree with, Ron. I really find this fundamentally offensive. You passed an emergency declaration before the state of California did. You closed down your beaches, your bars, your restaurants.
False.
It's a fact.
You
had quarantines.
False.
You had quarantines. You had checkpoints all over the state of Florida. By the way, I didn't say that. Donald Trump laid you out on this, dead to right. You did that.
True.
You followed science. You followed Fauci.
That's not false.
He followed science. He followed Fauci. You were promoting.
Hold on.
You were promoting vaccines. You were promoting vaccines. You even wore a mask. You wore a mask with Donald Trump outside. And your immigration policy can best be described as a governor from the state of Florida going into another state, the state of Texas, lying to migrants, promising them jobs and housing, sending them to an island, Martha's Vineyard, and then sending them to a parking lot.
You may be asking, what is that plotting? Well, this is an app where they plot the human feces that are found on the streets of San Francisco. And you see how almost the whole thing is covered. Human feces is now a fact of life, except when a communist dictator comes to town.
That entire thing was brutal. Okay, so look, you heard Gavin's arguments like against book bans. The majority of people are against the book bans, right? And so, you know, the immigration, what Ron DeSantis had done with immigration, all that stuff. And Ron responds with a poop map. He brought a literal poop map. I mean, look, I know the disgust angle really resonates with conservatives. Like in the conservative brain, disgust tends to like overtake just about everything. Oh, I find it disgusting. It means I'm going to vote for Ron DeSantis. But here's the thing, right? You know what would help with preventing human feces on the sidewalks? Ending homelessness. Yeah, that would be great. Now, by the way, I'm going to be super fair here, right? Because I'm going to critique both Newsom and Ron DeSantis. California and Florida have a problem with homelessness. Well, in fact, look, this isn't just a California-Florida problem. It's a, America problem. We have a lot of homeless people in this country. National issue. Now, specifically in California, there's 171,521 people that experienced homelessness last year. Now, in Florida, 25,959 experienced homelessness, according to the National Alliance to End Homelessness. California, New York, Florida, and Washington actually had the most homeless people in 2022, according to the annual Homeless Assessment Report. California, number 1 in homelessness. Keeping it real. Florida, number 3. So not doing too much better. California has a larger population than Florida. So by numbers, you're going to have a larger homeless population. Although per capita, California still has a lot more homeless people, which is why it's number 1. Now, that said, homelessness goes hand in hand with being able to afford housing, affordable housing. So California has the highest housing costs in the country. That's a major problem. In fact, a 2022 study found that moderate decreases in rents would lead to significant declines in homelessness, not only in California, but across the country, but mainly California. And a 2023 study published by the University of California, San Francisco, found that the high cost of housing was actually the greatest obstacle to reducing homelessness in the state. So there's an issue, right? That is something that Gavin Newsom, hey, look, it's fair to go after him on homelessness. He's not done a very good job on that. And there's a reason. Some of the largest donors to Gavin Newsom are in the real estate industry. But wait, hold on. Ron DeSantis, same thing. Ron DeSantis has received a ton of donations from the real estate industry. And so both of them, look, they take money from the real estate industry. What does the real estate industry want? To not have affordable housing, to have housing that is expensive, because then they make more money. In fact, rents in Orlando, part of Orange County, actually increased 27% from the second quarter of 2021 to the second quarter of 2022, the highest second increase in any city in the country over that period. So that is in Florida. And according to a report in More Perfect Union, the National Association of Realtors actually used their lobbying power to block efforts to put in rent controls in both California and Florida. Newsom and DeSantis both against that. So in that case, you want to bring up the poop map, that's fair, but tie it back to homelessness, which Ron DeSantis did not do. But at the same time, it'd be pretty easy for Gavin Newsom to pull up a poop map of Miami. Because Florida, as I mentioned, is the 3rd highest state for homelessness in the country. So you could hit him back with that. So anyway, that said, the best part of this, debate, besides the poop map, was DeSantis emphatically denying that he followed science. I didn't follow the science. That's not true. That's not true. I didn't follow science. I hate science. But wait, he wore a mask. He promoted vaccines before and then turned against it. And the other part that I really enjoyed was Gavin Newsom bringing up Ronald Reagan and using it against Ron DeSantis. St. Ronald the Reagan being used against a Republican by a Democrat. Hilarious every time it happens. But that said, DeSantis has got a lot of problems. That debate notwithstanding. Look, the home insurance industry in Florida, in the state, has almost pretty much collapsed at this point, okay? And yet, Ron's out there having debates that he doesn't need to have with. It's not like Gavin Newsom's running for president. Why would you have a debate with Gavin Newsom? I don't know. It was completely unnecessary. And while he's not doing that, he's out there talking about woke and then showing maps of poop. So, I mean, the entire thing is just an absolute disaster. Ron DeSantis, you're never going to catch up with Donald Trump. How could you? Look, the guy is, and we've talked about it before, he's super wooden and kind of weird and unlikable. There's no charisma there. And again, you know, aside from all of that and the weird, you know, putting fingers habit, look, he should be really, if you're concerned about, you know, how he would do as president of the United States, you only need to look at Florida and how he's essentially abandoned the state. You got a lot of problems to fix in Florida, poop included. Why not do that instead of running for president? And so, guy's an absolute disaster, dumpster fire, and his campaign ain't long for this world.